Hey guys, so this is going to be my actual labor. And I think I'm just going to tell you guys um, like what happened, and then I'll do another video talking about how I want my next pregnancy to go and how I hope that, like, what I would have done differently, basically. So I got to the hospital. This is around 3 in the afternoon on Thursday, December 1st is when this is. Okay, so they got me all admitted, and I told my family to go ahead and come on over since I was going to be at the hospital. And then they just had me wait a little bit. I wasn't progressing at all. I think I was like 2 or 3 centimeters dilated, and completely thinned out, and my water had broken, but I wasn't going anywhere from then. So at about 6 p.m., they gave me I was reading over my notes and I was like, I missed a lot of stuff. Okay, so at like 6 p.m. they gave me they checked me, and then they gave me some Pitocin. They didn't give me a lot of it, just a little bit of it, and then they took me off of it after about 20 or 30 minutes and had me walk around the halls, and that started my contractions. So I don't know exactly how much Pitocin I had, but I know that it wasn't a lot, and I wasn't on it continually because I was able to walk around. So then when I started laboring, I used, they have like a tub, and I went into the tub, and that was so fantastic. It's really hard to explain, but like basically what it felt like was like when I was having a contraction, it felt like ridiculously horrendous, like basically menstrual cramps almost, and it was like really contained in like my like abdominal area. Then when I got in the tub, it kind of like dispersed the pain throughout my whole body, and that helped because it wasn't like focused, you know? So I don't know, I loved it. Like, it just relaxed me, and it was really fantastic. And contractions are so weird because I would be like perfectly fine, and I remember like laying in the tub, and my sister was in the room, just talking to us for a little bit, and it was like totally fine, and Adam was sitting like on the toilet right next to the tub, and I was totally fine just having a conversation. All of a sudden a contraction came on, and I was just like, oh man, like, and I like threw up, and I threw up all over Adam, and I felt so terrible, but you know, what are you gonna do? So then I also used a birthing ball, which is basically like a huge yoga ball, and that helped a lot too because it like opened like my cervix, not my cervix, but like, I don't know, it just felt like everything kind of like opened a little bit, and it was like the pain was easier to like come out, and I don't know. So tubs and birthing balls, I so recommend. So the nurse that we had didn't normally work the night shift. So it was a pretty terrible experience with her. She was kind of not interested in like me having this baby on her shift. So she really pushed for me to get an epidural, and I was so unprepared for the amount of pain that I was going to feel that I ended up getting one at midnight, which it felt like I was laboring for years. But apparently I was only laboring for like 6 hours. But I got in my epidural at about midnight, and I just remember like sitting up on the table and almost passing out a few times because he couldn't get it in right, and then he like got it in, and then it only went to one side and numbed the one side, so he was trying to get to the other side, but he was like really worried about hitting something else, and I kept almost passing out, and he was really nervous about having the needle inside of me and me passing out, so I had like 4 people holding me. So anyway, I ended up getting the epidural, but it was only on one side. So then she gave me this thing called a peanut ball, and it's basically like a big yogurt ball shaped like a pecking peanut. Like it has like smaller in the middle and then like on the sides, and you like put it between your legs, and it opens you up to help dilate you, And so we did that, and she had me lay on the side that the epidural wasn't on. So it was like kind of like, because it was a continual like epidural, so it was like kind of dripping into that side to numb that side, and so that side was numb when I was laying on it when the epidural was like dripping down into it. But then when I would move, or if I would go to the other side, then that side would be completely, I would feel everything again. So then she really wanted me to sleep. She's like, you need to sleep, you need to sleep. So, and of course I don't know what to look for, what to feel, what birthing feels like. I don't know. I have no idea. So anyway, I slept a little bit, and she kept coming in and checking me, until I got my epidural at midnight, and then she was like, just sleep. So I slept for like an hour or two, and it's kind of hazy, but basically what happened is she comes in at about 5 in the morning, and she hadn't been in since about 3 in the morning, so 2 hours. And she comes in to check me, and she's just like, okay, I'm going to check you. It's all quiet, and my mom is in the room, and Adam's in the room. We were all sleeping. And she's like, I'm just going to check you. So she checks me, and she was like, oh my gosh, you're at 10. And I was like, really? And like all of a sudden Adam like jumps out of bed, and he's like, I'm ready, like, and she's like, oh, okay, I guess I'll call the doctor and tell her, or the midwife. And she comes back in like 25-30 minutes later, and that is a long time when you're a first-time mom and you're like, I'm at 10 centimeters, what happens now? Like, I know the baby comes out at some point, but what happens? And so she comes in, and she's like, okay, well, we can just like start laboring if you really want to, but your midwife is laboring with someone else right now. And I was just like, okay, there's 6 of them, call another one in. Like, that seems ridiculous to me. Like, I'm in labor now too, so why can't you be with me? Like, and I don't necessarily need you. There's 6 of you guys. You don't have someone that's on call? Like, that seems kind of ridiculous. And I asked the question, I was like, what happens if I start laboring at the same time as someone else? And their answer was, it doesn't usually happen. So I was really like confused and nervous, and I didn't know what was going to happen. So then, like, she's just like, we'll just let you labor down. And I was like, what do you mean? What does that mean? And she's like, we'll just let you, just let the baby like work itself down by itself. And Adam and I were kind of like, okay. And then like they left the room, and Adam's like, if the baby will just work itself out by itself, why does any woman ever push? And I was like, I don't know, I'm really confused right now. Like, I don't know what's going on. So we kind of like labored by ourselves, and she'd come in like periodically, and at one point I was like, I think I really need to push. And she's like, are you feeling the urge to push? And I was like, I don't know, I feel like I should. Like, my body feels like it should push. Is that the urge to push? Because if so, I'm feeling it, like, and this is at like probably 6 in the morning. So I've been 10 centimeters since at least 5 a.m. She checked me at 5 a.m. on December 2nd. And so she like sits on the edge of my bed, and she like goes, okay, and like watches me push, and she's just like, okay, yep, keep going. And I'm like, hello, this is the birth of my baby. Like, you need to be like, if you don't have the gumption to be here, just go ahead and go. Find someone else. Like, this is so ridiculous. And I kept telling her, I was like, is there anyone else that can come in? Like, is there another doctor? And she's like, well, we're really busy right now. And I'm like, sorry, this isn't Kmart. Call someone else in. Like, we're giving birth right now. Like, this is ridiculous. So then we labored with her, whatever. At 7 o'clock, there was a shift change. So no one was in my room, which is kind of like, okay, bye. Like, I don't know where you all are. At about 7:45, my midwife finally came in. It was a new midwife, not the one that had been laboring all night long. Which sucked, because the one that was laboring all night long was the midwife that I preferred to have. But she went home. So then, yeah, that was like 7:45. So then I labored with the new midwife, and she was okay, but we in a hospital, obviously, and she's like, I don't know, doing an okay job, but Liam wasn't coming out, and it was excruciatingly painful. Like, I don't know, at this point, I had been basically pushing since 5 in the morning, and nothing was happening. Like, he wasn't getting any lower. Like, I didn't know what I was doing wrong. So at some point between about 7:45 and 8:45, there was like more people that had come in. She couldn't get Liam to come down anymore. I couldn't push him anymore. I was getting exhausted, and so then she's like, well, we're going to have to get the vacuum. And I was so petrified of the vacuum, and I'm like, okay, I guess, like, I don't know what else I can do right now because I've been trying to push, and I couldn't do it. So then at about 8:45, a doctor came in, and he comes in, and I actually really liked him. So he comes in, and he's like, okay, we're going to have to get this baby out with a vacuum. And I'm like, okay, like, I don't want to do that, but I don't know what else we can do right now. Like, you're telling me to do something, and I'm trying my best, and it's not working, so I don't know what else to do. And so he's like, all right, well, he hands the vacuum to midwife, and he says, here, you can practice. What? You can practice? Like, what are you talking about? So then she puts it on Liam's head, and if you've never seen a vacuum, it's like this little cone. It's like a Dixie cup almost shape with like a hose thing attached to it. I don't know. So you stick it on the baby's head, and you like pull, and it like suctions to the baby and pulls out, and it can be really terrible because it can like pull all the blood to the baby's head. And like, I'm not a doctor. Like, I obviously had the vacuum used on my baby. Like, it's sometimes necessary, but it's not a first resort. So anyway, she tries to do that, and she's pulling with such might that she pops off his head and falls back into the cabinets that she was like backed up against, and does it a second time, pulls as hard as she can, and pops off and hits the cabinets behind her. And I'm like, okay, all that pressure that just threw you backwards was just on my baby's head. Like, so after 2 times of doing that, the doctor is kind of like looking, and he's like, hold on. So then he like sticks his arm up to, like my nostrils, and twists the inside of like all of my organs upside down. And all of a sudden he's like, push. It's like, okay. So I pushed, and Liam comes down. He's like, push again. I'm like, okay. Push again. Liam comes down. It was like a few pushes, and Liam was birthed at 9:02 a.m. on December 2nd. So basically what happened was he was like coming out, but his head was turned. So every time I pushed him, I was like pushing him into the wall instead of like actually pushing him out. So if this nurse had checked me correctly or known, she could have turned him, and we could have possibly had him earlier. Or if the midwife had checked me and been able to know, like, she was like, the like bones on their head that we were like feeling for, she's like, I thought I was feeling these ones, but I was actually feeling these ones. And I was like, you should have known. Like, I don't know. It was like so frustrating to me because obviously this doctor figured it out like right away. And I am totally not like pro doctor, anti midwife, but I am like pro being able to do your job correctly, especially when it comes to like pregnancy. So I don't know, like, it was like really frustrating to me. And it was like really not that fantastic experience, I guess. So after at 9:02, Liam came out, and then he was put on me, and he didn't cry right away. He just didn't really make any noise. Then Adam cut the umbilical cord, and they took him over to the warmer, and Adam was like standing there looking at me like, and like looking at Liam like, where do I go? So it's like, go to Liam. So he goes over to Liam, and like looks at him, and Liam's like at this point like bawling his eyes out, and he looks up at Adam with these huge eyes, and he just doesn't say, like, he doesn't cry, and he just stops crying. And I thought that was so precious. But anyway, so then all of a sudden, like, I'm like, oh, how sweet, he's not crying, and all of a sudden I'm like, like, there's something else coming out. And so, yeah, I went ahead and, yeah, to birth the placenta, and so, I did that, and that wasn't as terrible as I thought it was. Like, people said it would be really terrible, and it wasn't horrible. It wasn't pleasant, but it wasn't horrible. So, oh, and the doctor did have to cut me. So I did have to end it. I did get an episiotomy, but it wasn't a super large one. So I will go ahead and do part 3 of this video, talking about my postpartum and our stay in the hospital. So I'll go ahead and do that in a little bit.